If there is one thing that will absolutely transform your life by helping you master your mind, yourself, and your reality, it is learning how to manipulate the balance between masculine and feminine energy within you, which is how you use the law of duality to your advantage. And in this video, we'll cover what is the law of duality, the two poles of duality, how these two energies manifest in reality, and how to use them to hack your mind and reality. So buckle up, because this is going to be a full-blown lesson on the law of duality and exactly how this is going to transform your perception on life and how to hack it. So what is the law of duality? Now, the law of duality is something very emphasized in Hermeticism. If you don't know what Hermeticism is, it's basically all the teachings from Hermetis Trismegistus from Egypt 3,000 years ago. So this philosophy is something that actually becomes the foundation to a lot of these spiritual beliefs, religions, and the overall spiritual walks of life, because it is 7 principles that form all the laws of the universe. Now, the law of duality is most commonly known as the principle of gender in Hermeticism. And no, I do not mean sex or genitalia. I don't mean that. The law of gender is more like these two energies that make up source, that make up God. So when God basically manifested itself into this physical realm, it came through these two energies coming together, right? But in God, right, in the realm of God, of the realm of source, these two poles don't exist. It's just one. Like, these two energies are just one energy. But that doesn't happen here because we are in a physical realm. But these two energies also do manifest on all planes of existence except the one of God, of the all, the source. Now, these two energies that make up God when it comes to these planes of existence are the masculine and the feminine energy. And once again, no, I do not mean sex or genitalia. The masculine and feminine energy actually transcend this plane of existence. So it's something much larger than just this physical existence and, genitalia. And this is where it gets interesting, because in Hermeticism, it states that no creation is possible without these two energies coming together. Every single person contains these two energies within them, and so does all of reality. Even this couch, everything that you see is basically made up of these two energies. You can see that within the atoms, with the protons being the masculine and the electrons being the feminine, and they come together and they basically create the atom, which is the structure of all reality. So you see, this law is literally the foundation to creation, which I'm sure you want to do. You want to manifest your dream life, you want to elevate, you want to transform, and in order to do so, this law is so important. The word gender comes from the Latin root to beget, which is actually to produce, to procreate, to create. So this law is the key to literally manifestation, to creation, to creating overall, to producing, to giving birth. So understanding this law is the key to claiming your power to create reality and to master yourself. Not only that, but since the principle of gender is really embedded in all of reality and it's where all creation comes from, it's literally going to give you almost like a foundation, a structure on how to look at life. And whatever walk of life that you choose, whether you're Christian, Muslim, or you go your own path, right? Whether you're spiritual, whatever path you choose in life, this law will give you a pretty good foundation on understanding this specific path more. Because once again, all these principles from Hermeticism are really just foundations to, this physical realm, right? The laws that create this reality, and how to maneuver, manipulate, and use them to your advantage. Now let's go more in depth into the two poles of duality. Now, many of you have probably seen the yin and yang symbol, yin being the feminine and yang being the masculine. Now, we don't want to think of the yin as a darkness, right? Something bad. The yin is simply what is hidden, what is internal, and the yang is more external. So that's why that color choice happens, not because the darkness is bad, negative. No, we don't want to think of the feminine like that. We just want to think of these two opposites as just two opposites, right? Two sides of the same coin, same in nature but different in degree, and essentially they are one, right? You can see in the yin and yang symbol a little bit of darkness in the yang and a little bit of light in the yin, and these two sides cannot live without one another. Now, Many of you know that the beginning of the universe started off with the Big Bang. Whether you believe in that or not, all we really know is that from nothing came something. Now when God or source or the universe, whatever you want to call it, came into existence, it was first an idea, it was first a dream, it was first chaos, right? And then it used masculine energy in order to organize that chaos, which is the feminine, that dream, the heart, right? That idea into order, into different fragments of consciousness, and from there all worlds came into existence. So they needed these two energies in order to come together and become reality. The feminine being the heart, the love, the idea, the dream, the incubator, the chaos. And the masculine being the mind, the organizer, the coder of this feminine energy. This is the will and the action, what actually brought this dream, the idea into different fragments of consciousness and made it a reality. Now without the feminine, there's literally nothing to code. There's nothing to give order to, right? There essentially isn't even masculine energy, because the masculine energy cannot exist without something to give order to. There's really nothing to program. And without the masculine, well, the feminine energy, it's just chaos. It's just idea, dreams that never come into fruition. That's no creation at all whatsoever either. And these two energies live in every single aspect of our reality and all these different planes of existence, of course, remember, except in God's state of mind, which is oneness. And once you understand how these two energies behave within you and all of reality, you start to build a foundation on how to organize your energy in a much more productive way that aligns with what you really want to do and what you want to become. Now, before we get into how these energies manifest in you and reality, make sure to like and subscribe if you're finding this video helpful and if you're really looking to become your best self through the metaphysical. And if you're taking this path to spiritual mastery very seriously, make sure to check out all my resources below. Now, how do these two energies manifest into reality and inside of you? Now, when it comes to these two energies manifesting in reality, the best example I can give you is you or me right now. If there was no masculine energy, you can think of this, my body and this sofa and everything around me just starting to crumble up into particles and becoming one, because there's no masculine energy to give in an order to, right? There's no masculine energy to tell the couch right now to be like, okay, well, this is going to be in this form and you're going to be solid like this. Your particles have to be like, very slow like this. That wouldn't exist without the masculine energy. The masculine energy is really what gives everything almost like a form. And it gives it its separation, its identity in some sort of way. This is why the masculine is as well the ego, right? And I'm not saying the ego is bad. Of course, when you go to an extreme, it is, very self-centered, something very egotistical, etc. But the ego is really just your identity. If you didn't have an ego, if you didn't have that masculine energy within you, which is, part of it is the ego, of course, you wouldn't be able to know who to feed. Do you feed your, where's your mouth when you feed yourself? Because you would be one with everything. You wouldn't have an ego, right? You wouldn't be able to tell apart you from a light. So that is the masculine energy. That's what gives people the stuff, everything here in order. Now you can see these two energies also manifested in nature to procreate, to reproduce as the two sexes, the male and female bodies. And a part of why the Bible says we are made in the image of God is because our bodies, like our physical bodies, are created after the image of these two energies, with the male body being representative of the masculine energy, right? The strong. This is why men are stronger than women. This is why men protect. Men are the action takers, right? I'm not saying women are not action takers, but this energy, their bodies, you can see they were created for more of external responsibility. This is why the male body is stronger than the women. They're also penetrators, right? They have a penis, so they penetrate the women. And the woman is the one that can literally go from nothing into giving life. And the female body is created after the feminine energy. This is why the women's body is more, I would say, sensitive, right? It's more delicate, because the feminine energy is love, is the heart, is the dream, the idea. And this is why women can give birth. They are the incubators. They can bring a life from the spiritual to the physical. They are that bridge between the unknown to the known. And although both sexes have both energies within them, and they can fluctuate between the both depending on their, what they want to do, on what their goal is. The truth is that the human body was made to retain more of that energy which it was created after. And together these two sexes creates life, and it's really important to not disparage this order. Now I'm gonna give you some examples of how these energies manifest within you. Now, when it comes to a child being born, it first develops the emotional body, which is the heart, the feminine, right? They come into this world having more of emotional senses instead of logical sensing of life, right? A logical output in life. They don't have the ego yet. And after, a while, around 5 years old, that's when they develop the ego, the mind, the logic. And that logic, that mind, that order comes into the child, right? As a masculine energy giving order to its feminine so it can get the child ready for the world. But I will be completely honest with you, there's no such thing as a complete balance between these two energies, because we are always changing and fluctuating between both of them. For example, you might want to study for a test today. You would have to use your logical mind. You would have to use your masculine side in order to retain that information. But if you want to do art the next day, you would have to use more of your feminine energy in order to, get the ideas for your art, and then you actually use your masculine to put them into action. The soul sometimes decides to retain more of the opposite energy which your body was created for that soul specific evolutionary plan. For example, to me, this information that I'm giving you right now, I'm actually communicating with my masculine, because the masculine is my ability to put this information into order in order for me to communicate it to you so you understand in a better way, right? And I do find myself being slightly more in my masculine than my feminine. Now, you being more in your feminine if you're a straight male doesn't make you not straight. We want to think of these two energies as more of like receiver and giver, right? If you're a male who is straight and you're a little bit more in your feminine, you're somebody who's most likely going to be an artist, a creative, somebody who is using more of their creative energy in order to move through life. So this really has nothing to do with your sexual preferences, but life is really all about fluctuating between these two energies depending on what your goal is. Now let's go back into this yin and yang. Now the virtues of the energies within you and in the universe are as follows. The masculine is the order, the protection, the action, the will, the organization, the coder of the matrix, right? The leadership, the external world, the outer strength, the mind, the logic, the self-love, right? Because the ego is really all about self-love, identity, right? Living up and exploring your individualism. And the feminine virtues are the creation, the imagination, the intuition, the creativity, the mystical. It is compassion, emotions, the heart, the inner strength, right? The masculine is the outer strength. This is why the masculine body is stronger than the feminine. And unlike the male body, the feminine body is stronger but from within. This is why we can retain more pain than the men. But the feminine is also the love for others. The key is to find the balance between these two energies that fits your goals in certain moments in time. Now I want to talk how these two energies can manifest in you, but in their dark sides. We are light beings who came to this earth, and in order to come to this earth, to come to this density, to this low density, right? Because this is low density, this is atoms vibrating at a very slow pace in order to stay solid. So in order for us to be here, we literally had to lower our vibration and our consciousness to be in this physical experience. And we don't have to stay in these lower states of consciousness. The point is to actually evolve past them. But unfortunately, due to our oppressive spiritual history, many have fallen into the shadow sides, the darker sides of these two energies, the masculine and the feminine. And the world for this reason is right now out of balance. This is why you can see a lot of people vibrating in very low states of frequency. Now, if we name the masculine and feminine energy in their divine states when they're in balance, now you can see the divine masculine being order, being logic, being the mind, the organization, the action, the will, the ego, your identity. And with the divine feminine, it would be more of the heart, the love, the idea, the dreams. This is how you retain, you channel from the spirit realm. And then with your masculine, you put that channeled information into action. But the feminine is the creativity, the spiritual, right? The unknown, the subconscious mind, while the masculine is the conscious. Now remember that these two sides are one of the same coin. They are the same in nature, like a thermometer, but different in degree. So if you start leaning more towards one side, you will start diminishing the other side. Now, if you start leaning towards the shadow side of the masculine, you will first enter into a state of being egocentrical, okay? This is where you will be selfish, everything will be me, 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 and you will most likely feel a disconnection from the universe because you are missing your feminine. Your feminine is really that connection to your spirit. It is your heart, your emotions. And the more you go towards the stream of the masculine, you will find narcissists, right? People who have completely disregarded their feminine side. This is why narcissists are very controlling, okay? Instead of having order, which is divine, you have control. You have abusers, you have tyranny, right? You have egocentrical people, greed, right? The material. Remember, the masculine is the external. So these would be people that are focused on the external only. They have no interest in the internal. And most narcissists that I've met, they really do not want to even take a look at the internal because it really terrifies them. So this would be greed. People who are too illogical, right? There's no empathy here. There's gaslighting, right? Mental manipulation. There's overall people who are just not very in tune with their emotions. These would be people who completely disregard others and are more all about themselves. And the more to the extreme that you go, of course, you will find psychopaths, sociopaths, etc. People with absolutely no amount of emotion. Now, if you go more towards the extreme of the feminine, you will encounter codependency, right? At the other end, yet you have being egocentrical, being the abuser. Here it is the victim. You're codependent, and you will also find more chaos, right? Emotional dysregulation, people who cannot control their emotions. Instead of being driven by the ego, which is the shadow side of the masculine, now you are driven by your emotions, and that's also not good. Now, these are also people who are very obsessed with the spiritual. If you're ungrounded, for example, and you don't feel like anything is real, you just can't connect to the physical realm, you will find yourself more in the extreme of the feminine. And if you go towards an extreme of it, you will encounter insanity as well, because somebody who has no order, there's no mind right there to give them order, to give them logic, and so they end up going into that chaos and losing their mind. You also find on this extreme borderline personality disorder, for example, which is a complete dysregulation of the emotions and complete chaos. But then the more extreme you go, you also encounter sociopathy, again, just like the extreme of the masculine. Why? Because remember, it is the same in nature but different in degree. But at the same time, do you know when something becomes so cold it feels like it's hot, or when something is so hot that it feels like it's cold? You know, that is exactly what happens here. It ends up almost like fusing together into this extreme low level of consciousness. So this would be the fall of consciousness overall. And you can even see this with the emotional scale. For example, you have enlightenment at the top, and at the bottom you have fear, you have shame, right? All of these lower emotions. Now at the bottom of these scales, you have, of course, it can be driven by a shadow side of a feminine or shadow side of the masculine, but it ends up resulting in lower states of consciousness from this emotional scale. The more towards the extreme of the masculine you go, that is called the Ahriman energy, and that is the shadow side of the masculine in fall of consciousness. And the more towards the extreme that you go of the feminine, you find the Luciferian energy, which is false light, right? Lucifer, we don't want to think of it as Satan, is more of a false light. That's why you see Lucifer in a lot of pictures. You see it as more of like this beautiful woman, but it is false light. This is why when people go towards the, you know, the spiritual and all of these things, but they forget completely about the physical realm. They forget about the logic. They forget about the mind, the fact that you need to make money here, that you need to, you know, build yourself, have stability, etc. In some sort of way, they end up, you know, going completely broke. For example, a lot of these artists who are like creatives and everything, but they don't really apply themselves in a physical level because they don't have their masculine energy grounded enough. They end up just being failed artists. And you also find this a lot with a lot of spiritual people who end up completely forgetting about the physical, and then they end up also being very broke, right? Being broke, of course, is not a bad thing. There's a lot of people who don't have monetary success, but they have success in other areas of their life. But I will say that there are quite a lot of people who, when they wake up, they go towards the extreme of the feminine, where they completely forget about their physical lives, and then they end up, tuning into that false light, that false energy that makes them forget that they're also human beings, that false energy. So this is why it's called Luciferian energy. In order for these two to be in their divine presence, they need to be balanced in the way that works the best for you. Of course, it never works the best for anybody if they're in their extremes. So you want to make sure that you have a good balance between both energies and you're fluctuating between the middle, etc., right? You're having a good balance. Now, how can you take advantage of these energies and implement them into your life for your own gains? It all really depends on your goals. So for example, let's say you want to manifest. You want to see in which scale of these two are you in. Are you more in your masculine, where you're very logical, where you're struggling to believe in the universe, to receive from the universe, right? You want to find yourself going more towards your feminine. Because if you're too logical, you're not going to allow yourself to receive miracles which are out of the ordinary, right? That would be something that you receive from the feminine. And so if you shift more towards your feminine from being too logical, and you allow yourself to receive from the unknown, to step into the unknown, to unlock your creativity, to unlock your ideas, that is when you are going to start to manifest more. Because manifestation has everything to do with believing in the unknown, believing in the feminine, believing in receiving from the unknown. But you don't want to just leave it there, because then those dreams get unrealized. You want to have a good balance between both. But if you really want to manifest, most of the work will have to do with doing, with the feminine side. Reprogramming your subconscious, starting to believe more in the universe, building a relationship more to, to the higher being. And let's say you want to do all these things, but you can't find the ability to do them. You have so many dreams, you want to do so many things, but you just can't channel that and take action into it. Well, then you are too far into your feminine, right? You need more order, you need more grounding in this physical realm. So maybe start off by taking one of the things and putting them into action, or start to plan out your day and be very strict with following that in a way that works for you, of course, because everybody has a way of being organized that works for them. So what you want to do is find your way to be organized, your way to channel the masculine energy. Let's say another objective is for you to connect more with God, right? You feel disconnected from your true essence, you feel disconnected from the spiritual realm, you want to connect more. Well, that would say that you are more in your masculine. You would have to develop more of the feminine. If you want to connect more with God, we'll start off with developing more sensitivity. Start developing more emotions, more ability to feel, because the spiritual is mostly felt than seen or heard, etc. It is mostly felt. So start tapping into your creativity, your imagination. I have a bunch of videos on how to do all of that, by the way, on my channel. But anyways, that is what would get you more in tune with God, right? Tapping more into the feminine, but not to an extreme, still keeping the masculine, the logic, in order to really put your feminine into action in the physical world. Let's say you want to fix a personality disorder as well. You have to diagnose in what scale are you in. Are you more towards the masculine, which would be more narcissism, sociopathy, being too egotistical, psychopathy, or you want to shift more, or are you more in the feminine, which would be, for example, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, and all these ADHD would be more of here as well. What do you want to do, right? You would have to start to channel more of the energy which you are lacking of. Now, you also could have creation, right? Do you want to create anything? You want to create a business, you want to start a business, you want to create. Start to channel more your feminine energy, start to be more creative, and then use that creativity, use your ideas, use your dreams, and literally write them down first, and then put them into action in whatever way that you can. Start to organize yourself, start to put these two energies together into creation, whether it's creation of art, paintings, businesses, essays, whatever it is. You can create anything, but it all starts off with first channeling your feminine energy and then putting that feminine energy into the physical through your masculine. You want to reprogram your subconscious mind? Well, your conscious mind is the masculine. It is the one that penetrates the subconscious, because the subconscious is very chaotic. It's already there. It was created in the first 7 years of your life. That is the feminine. It is the unknown, right? The part that is in the background. So you use your conscious mind to penetrate your subconscious mind, and that's how these energies work together. So of course, that's gonna be a whole other video on how to actually reprogram your subconscious mind. But do you see how these two energies are literally all around you, inside of you, and how by understanding what these two are, you can start to manipulate them within you to master yourself and to master your reality. It is absolutely insane. So definitely learning how to fluctuate between both of these energies is key, depending on what you want to do. If you need more masculine energy for a certain project, then you channel more of your masculine, right? You start to actually bring order to yourself. You ask yourself to channel more of that. If you want to channel more of your feminine because you have an artistic project to get into, or you want to create a business, right? Start to channel more of your feminine and then put it into action with the masculine. It has everything to do with fluctuating between both of these energies depending on what your goal is in that specific moment. This is truly how you hack and change your life completely. Now, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like and save, because you're definitely gonna want to return to this video since it was a long lesson. And if you want to align with your best self through the supernatural power of your own mind, my page is all about metaphysics, so make sure to subscribe. I'm Ira Morphy, here to help you align with your highest potential, and I'll see you on the next video.